Hello, how's everyone doing today? I hope you're doing good. Thank you for joining me on the program. Hello, everyone. How's everyone doing? Thank you for joining me on the program. My name is Celso Garcia, live from New York City, from my living room, and soon to be the studio. Thank you for joining me. I appreciate it. So thank you for joining me. I appreciate every single one of you for supporting the program and helping this channel get bigger and bigger every day, right? This is bizarre, right? It makes me wonder every time, like when I used to sit there and yeah, sit there and family members would sit there watching the programs such as Fox News. I would sit there and listen and be like, how could people agree with this stuff? How could people agree with people that have this mentality, this point of view in life, right? I've never had this point of view. And so as I gotten older, I've moved more to the left, right? To the left, in other words, more for human rights, more for human dignity, more for, body autonomy, more for um, uh, ways to help people become stronger, um, more for Medicare for all, more for workers, more for taking on those interests that don't help regular working people, right? I saw how rigged the system was in favor of some people over other people, right? I realized the system was rigged. Things didn't work out the way we wanted them to work out. So I moved more to the left. But now they're saying that being a humanist, caring about other human beings, caring about, um, LGBTQ people, caring about um, uh, people being able to survive, people being able to have a plate of food over their head and a roof over their head. These are radical ideas, right? I have to say that I no longer believe that these are radical ideas. No matter what the mainstream media says, no matter what people like Mark Levine say, right? He has a huge audience of baby boomers and people that lived in a different world, grew up in a different world, in a different time where it was a lot easier that if you went to college, you graduated, you would get a good job, or you had a union job, you were able to progress and make it in this world, right? But now it has gotten to a point that's very hard for people that are starting out in the world, right? It's a whole different ballgame. The experience is a lot different. Um, Technology um, has taken away a lot of jobs um, that were there available, right? For I always give the example of my grandmother. She was at the same job for more than 40 years. Um, she came to this country in the 1950s and she kept the same job for more than 40 years. Retired in that job, got a pension from that job, was able to survive just because of that one job that she had, that she was able to keep, right? Because she would tell stories on how everyone would treat each other like family or work together, help each other out. That wasn't the culture of trying to get each other or not helping each other. It was a different type of atmosphere, right? It was an atmosphere where um, the bosses weren't that bad, right? Relatively speaking. And then at a certain time, we didn't care about the human aspect of things. We stopped caring about each other and we stopped caring about what makes humans humans, right? So I'm going to make some jokes. So please don't cancel me. Please don't be offended. Please don't get upset when I make jokes, right? Because right now we're in a time where anyone that makes jokes or does comedy is easily going to be canceled. No one's going to listen to them. Everyone's going to be apprehensive and upset. How dare them make a joke? How dare them make a joke about life? How dare you lighten things up when most people live in oppressive situations or situations where they got to work more and more every day to make ends meet, right? But you can't lighten it up. You can't make jokes. How dare you make jokes? Because if you make jokes, then they're gonna try to cancel your show, like Jimmy Kimmel, right? And so now Trump is saying that they're gonna review the license, the FCC, Federal Communications Commission, is gonna review the license of ABC for allowing Jimmy Kimmel to make jokes, right? And it's because Melania Trump didn't like the jokes that were made about her and about her husband, right? And so Jimmy Kimmel hasn't backed down. He refuses to back down. He's like, no, I mean, a joke is a joke. Don't take me out of context. Don't try to spread more lies about me. Don't try to make it seem like the jokes I made are worse than what they used to be, right? Don't make it seem like the jokes I'm making are than worse than what they were, right? And so that's the reality of the times we're living in. They're demanding that we go back to the time where you had to be politically correct, where you had to say things to make sure that no one was offended. But the thing is, if we want us to go back to those times, then that means that Trump should not be making jokes either, right? Trump should not be making jokes either because he was making jokes and he's always saying things and then he says he's joking, right? Like when he attacked the Pope, he said people can't take a joke, right? Every time he reverts to that and says he's joking. But these are people that get paid to make jokes, make people laugh, right? That's what people do. That's what they do for a living. So that's part of the First Amendment, right? That's part of the First Amendment. The First Amendment is dear to this country. It's dear to all of us. So it's dear to me at least. I don't know about you, but it's dear to me. I see the connection of losing our First Amendment rights. And then we have people like this that should we take them seriously? Fox News, Mark Levin. A big
Hello, America. I'm Mark Levin, and this is Life, Liberty, and Levin Saturday. Thank you for being here. Look, I wanted to open tonight's show talking about the Iran war, but I have decided to save that for tomorrow night's show, Sunday. Why? Because we need to discuss a grave danger that will extend beyond the Iran conflict, no matter how long that conflict may last. And it's even more complicated and, in many respects, even more dire. And I'm talking about the enemy within. What do I mean by the enemy within?
The left,
Let's turn to Abraham Lincoln.
people like me, right? The enemy within are people like me, people in the left spectrum that believe in life, liberty, and justice. We're not patriots. We don't believe in the country because we want to improve the country and we want to fight for what is right. We want the what's written in the Constitution to be adopted across the board for everything that's written in the Declaration of Independence to actually be um, taken into every single person's life, right? The right to pursue the pursuit of happiness, right? It should be applied to everyone. Everyone should have a right to be happy.
That is a phrase that has been said to have been his based on a speech he gave in 1838 when he was 28 years old. It was a speech to the Young Men's Lyceum of Springfield, Illinois, the perpetuation of our political institutions. He was unknown, obviously, through the country at that time, but he had already made a name for himself in Springfield, Illinois. And this speech was published by the local paper there, and it slowly appeared in publications across the country. And let me tell you what he said in part, because I always think history is a good guide, particularly when we're dealing with great statesmen and great events. He said, as a subject for the remarks of the evening, the perpetuation of our political institutions is selected. Our institutions, their perpetuation. He said, in the great journal of things happening under the sun, we, the American people, find our account running under date of the 19th century, the Christian era. We find ourselves in the peaceful possession of the fairest portion of the earth as regards extent of territory, fertility of soil, and salubrity of climate. We find ourselves under the government of a system of political institutions conducing more essentially to the ends of civil and religious liberty than any of which the history of former times tells us. We, when mounting the stage of existence, found ourselves the legal inheritors of these fundamental blessings. We toiled not in the acquirement of establishing them. They are a legacy bequeathed to us by a once hardy, brave, and patriotic, but now lamented and departed race of ancestors. Theirs was the task, and nobly they performed it, to possess themselves and through themselves us.
But then everyone had a flaw, right? A lot of people had a flaw, which they didn't get to see their support for slavery, their support for division, their support for everything that was happening. And we got to always remember that Abraham Lincoln was president during the Civil War, right? Huge war, the biggest war that cost the most American lives in U.S. history, right? So it wasn't that he was that much of a innocent person, but you want to portray him that way, that's fine. I'll go along with it just to prove a point, right? Just to hear you out, right? Just to hear you out. Everyone, double tap the screen, like the live, share the live. I appreciate your support. My name is Salsa Garcia, and I'm on YouTube, TikTok, Twitch, and every other channel out there, right? Trying to see which one's better to do a live on. I was always doing lives on TikTok. So now I decided to switch it up and do lives on all these channels, right? And so let's keep listening.
Of this goodly land, and to uprear upon its hills and its valleys a political edifice of liberty and equal rights. 'Tis ours only to transmit these, the former, unprofaned by the foot of an invader, the latter undecayed by the lapse of time and untorn by usurpation, to the latest generation that fate shall permit the world to know. This task of gratitude to our fathers, justice to ourselves, duty to posterity, and love for our species in general, all
I want to see what the
require
twist.
us faithfully to perform. How then shall we perform it? At what point shall we expect the approach of danger? By what means shall we fortify against it? Shall we expect some transatlantic military giant to step the ocean and crush us at a blow? Never. All the armies of Europe, Asia, and Africa combined, with all the treasure of the earth, our own accepted, in their military chest, with a Bonaparte for a commander, could not by force take a drink from the Ohio or make a track on the Blue Ridge in a trial of 1,000 years. At what point, then, is the approach of danger to the expected? I answer, if it ever reach us, it must spring up amongst us. It cannot come from abroad. If destruction be our lot, we must ourselves be its author and finisher. As a nation of free men, we must live through all time or die by suicide. Now, Lincoln spoke of the mob that had dragged out this black man off the streets in St. Louis, tied him to a tree and burned him alive, simply because he was black. And that got Lincoln's attention in a big way. And he worried about our...
Mike wears a ball cap
And is that it?
in his thinning hair, not because he's good at...
Is that it, everyone? I mean, this is Mark Levine, right? Mark Levine is a big Trump supporter. He's a Trump lover. And he's always going to bat for Trump, right? He's always going to find a way to bat for Trump. That's all. That's just a reality. He doesn't really care about what you think, right? So he's talking about the nobility of America's past. This nobility that most minorities and most people of color haven't felt or have never experienced in the United States, right? So we'll keep listening to him for a few more minutes.
are encouraged to become lawless in practice, and having been used to no restraint but dread of punishment, they thus become absolutely unrestrained. Having ever regarded government as their deadliest bane, they make a jubilee of the suspension of its operations and pray for nothing so much as its total annihilation. So they turn on the government, they turn on the law, they turn on our institutions, and they are tearing them down. While on the other hand, good men who love...
So January 6th, what do you consider that? They bone rush the Capitol. They try to tear it down, try to tear the senators, the Congress people out of their offices. They were looking for them and trying to destroy them. And you're going to give me this, that the Trump supporters and Trump are the loyal servants of America and trying to do everything good for America, while everyone else, especially the left, they just think about themselves. That doesn't make sense, right? When they think about money,
the desire to abide by the
they
laws
think
and
about
enjoy their
money. That's what they
benefits,
think about.
who would gladly spill their blood in the defense of their country, seeing their property destroyed, their families insulted, and their lives endangered, their persons injured, and seeing nothing in prospect that forebodes a change for the better. They become tired of and disgusted with a government that offers them no protection, and are not much averse to a change in which they imagine they have nothing to lose. Thus, he said, by the operation of this mobocratic spirit, which all must admit is now abroad in the land, the strongest bulwark of any government, and particularly of those constituted like ours, may effectually be broken down and destroyed. I mean the attachment of the people whenever this effect shall be produced among us. We hope there's no sufficient reason. We hope all dangers may be overcome, but to conclude that no danger may ever arise would itself be extremely dangerous. There are now and will hereafter be many causes, dangers in their tendency, which have not existed heretofore, and which are not too insignificant to merit attention. This is a very important speech, which is why I'm sharing it with the nation. Most people have not read it. Most people weren't taught about it. But this is so relevant to what's going on.
Yeah, the
today.
house divided shall not
He said
stand.
that our government should have been maintained in
Or
its
the famous
original
speech.
form from its establishment until now. It is not much to be.
At least I read it. I don't know if anyone else read it in school. I don't know if anyone read Abraham Lincoln's speech in school. I know I read it, but it's unbearable sometimes what he's saying, right? So people like this are the ones that are saying that the left is destroying America. That's their argument. The left is destroying America. It's always the left. The left is destroying America. Right? They don't say division. They missed the whole point of Abraham Lincoln's speech. Abraham Lincoln's speech was given to show the differences on how we are working against each other. And the house divided shall not stand, right? He's quoting the Bible and quoting what so let's hear a little bit more about Mark Levine, a strong Trump supporter, right? Don't want to hear no jokes from anyone, right? Jokes are not allowed.
Alliance, which is increasingly controlling the Democrat Party. It is devouring the Democrat Party. Its support now for the Iranian regime is because of this Marxist Islamist influence. Its hatred of Israel, and yes, Jews, because of this Marxist Islamist influence. And its attack on evangelical Christians because of this Marxist Islamist influence. I need to explore it with you. Because if we don't identify it, then we won't be able to deal with it. And then there's the woke right, what I call the neo-fascists. Woke right being R-E-I-C-H, who are at one with the Democrat Party in this Marxist Islamist alliance in their hate of our constitutional republic, their hate of our economic system, the hate of our history, and the hate, yes, of our military. They support our nation's adversaries, as do the Islamists and the Marxists, the Bernie Sanders, the Mandami, and the others. They are actively working to undermine the president, MAGA, conservatives, and the Republican Party, while claiming to represent them all. And this woke right has an ally also in the American media, who keep promoting them, who keep claiming that MAGA, that the Trump base is split. Yet poll after poll shows 90%, 92%, 100% of the Make America Great Again.
Well, the woke right. He's talking about the woke right. Is there such a thing as the woke right? Is there such a thing as the right wing that's woke? So, in other words, he's saying that there's woke people among Republicans too. I've never met a Republican woke person. Have you? You ever met a Republican that's woke? I never met one. He's saying that there is no division within the Republicans, but there's a group of woke Republicans. I guess he's referring to the Never Trumpers. He calls them woke. They're woke. They're as bad as the left. And then he goes on the Islamophobic rant. Right? Islamophobic rant. And then says that they're against Jewish people, which is not true, right? That's not true. There's a lot of Jewish people that are against the genocide in Palestine. There's a lot of Jewish people that are against all greed or against big corporations owning everything. They're for workers' rights. So we can't group people based on what their beliefs are. I mean, as far as their religious beliefs are, can't group them into one category, right? Because there's some people that believe in human rights, world and universal laws of dignity of each person, right? So it doesn't make sense what
Movement, MAGA, backs the president of the United States and our war with Iran. But it doesn't stop the media, populated by Democrats and Islamists and Marxists, to continue to push the narrative to try and undermine the president, undermine the war effort in service to the Democrat Party and their different forces and movements within it. And again, I will address that rather substantially in the coming.
So, how is that possible? How is that possible that we got woke Republicans? You ever met a woke Republican? Anyone here met a woke Republican? If you met one, let me know. If you met one, let me know, please. I never met a woke Republican. It's like confusing him in my feed with the controller. Mark Levine. Wrong leftist. Oh, according to them, the left is dangerous, right? Levine is saying that the Never Trumpers attacking them. Alex Jones is saying
us
for challenging him, saying he would destroy an entire civilization in one night, never to come back. The definition of genocide. And he's told us Mark Levin is his brain. Mark Levin that wants nuclear strikes on Iran preemptively. Israel's calling for that. This is madness. And I was there 10 years ago supporting him against Ted Cruz when nobody else really in Texas was. I was there when they had Crossfire Hurricane coming up against him, was the first to tell him about the illegal spying. I was there when I got sued by the Paul Weiss law firm with their whole fake show trial Sandy Hook garbage, the same law firm suing him. I was there and went through all of it with him. And I was so supportive in the last campaign and thought Doge was so amazing. And then Elon Musk left and said he's in the Epstein files. And everything started going sideways. Now he's giving glyphosate protection and the list goes on and on. It's a true nightmare. But I support the old Donald Trump, not the new Donald Trump. And now his own wife today, unannounced, reportedly he didn't know, came out and said, I was never in a relationship with Epstein. We predicted they were trying to blackmail Trump with fake rumors of that aren't true. But she's just like Bill Gates' wife, Melinda Gates, Melinda French now, coming out and saying, I'm not associated with Bill. Melania said that we need to see the women come forward. Epstein is real. We need congressional hearings. But Trump said a whole bunch last year and this year, Epstein's a hoax. There's nothing there. His own FBI director and deputy director said it's a hoax. He didn't even have accomplices. He wasn't even a human trafficker, even though his girlfriend, Ghislaine Maxwell, is in prison for human trafficking. So Trump is in free fall. This is an absolute nightmare. The Democrats are capitalizing on this, and they absolutely love it.
But then it's the left's fault, right? Always, that's their conclusion.
Love it, but it's Donald Trump's fault. And so I remember the good Donald Trump. We researched Epstein, never any connections to him. We knew they tried to tie Melania to this 10 years ago was a hoax. And these Jane Does that said that Trump raped him and trying to be fake. But he did cover it up, and he did protect Howard Lutnick and others. And he did say last year and this year, it doesn't exist.
So does it exist or doesn't it
Stop talking about it. Well, your own wife now says it does exist. It is a big issue. There should be congressional hearings. So Trump's got a big problem, and this is him panicking, trying to go after some of his best real supporters, but now he's got new supporters. All the Never Trumpers, the Lindsey Grahams, Lady Graham with his bubble wand at Disney, stalking children, and he's got Mark Levin, the Never Trumper, and he's got Ben Shapiro. So that's great. That's who you want to be MAGA. That's who you tell us is MAGA. Well, we're not MAGA. We're 1776 worldwide. And we'll continue with our populism, our nationalism, our Christianity, our conservatism that's spreading across the world in the fourth turning. Because Trump rode in like a surfer on this wave. He didn't create the wave. God created the wave we're all on right now. So let's go over this ridiculous post.
So this is what I can't agree with, right? With this guy. 1776er. In 1776, the Constitution, any slaves were 3/4 of a man, worth 3/4 of a vote. And so, do you believe in slavery? Do you believe in people not having rights? You don't believe in civil rights for all, including minorities? So for Mark Levin to say he's a woke Republican, him, Candace Owens, Megyn Kelly, they're not. They're not leftists. They're not. They won't be. They never will be. They still keep their right-wing ideology of holding down and oppressing women and of wanting to destroy people's lives that don't sympathize with them or support them, right? That's just, in the end of the day, they just care about clicks, clickbaiting, and they will say anything just to get attention. They don't really care about the point of views. They don't really care about the president. They just care about being popular, right? It's like the superficial kids in school that were very superficial and focused on the material things. Those are the ones that were the most dangerous, right? Because they will sell you out for $1. They will sell you out for an offer of money, right? So these people are out looking for greenbacks, looking for money. You can't trust their credibility. You can't trust their word for things, right? They contradict themselves over and over and then take the high road and take the high ground as if they're the righteous ones. So I don't consider Mark Levine, I don't consider Alex Jones, Candace Owens, Stephen Miller. I don't consider any of these people anywhere near being left wing as Mark Levine claimed, right? You saw what he claimed, right? That the problem was the left wing. What's the problem? The left wing, right? The left wing of the party. That's what Alex Jones argues. He says the number Trumpers are not bad people, but everyone else is, right? So this is the division that they create. And so let's see. Everyone hit the like button, hit the share button. Let's get these numbers up, right? Let's get these numbers up. So let's see the two kings in the White House. Oh boy. Oh boy. Right? And they're saying that Melania doesn't feel comfortable. The ladies are not talking to each other. They have press there. Right? Wow. This is the funniest thing, right? Wow, most Americans are suffering. They're wine and dining in the White House. Pomp and pompous. Oh, forget it. Can't tell no jokes, right? You tell a joke, you will be canceled, right? You will be canceled. And so and this is saying another embarrassing moment. Donald Trump skipped over the Queen. Right? Let's watch it without music. So this is what Trump did. She was taking her time. He was supposed to wait. Melania knew. She waited. And, right? And he cut him off. He demanded all the attention. Like, he's the king. Huh? Trump is the king. The king next to the king, everyone. The king next to the king. I guess this is not a good time to have a king visit, right? Trump cuts the king and queen off before they could finish giving their handshakes, and makes them feel awkward and out of place. These are the things they say that Trump does, right? Or not. Are these the things that Trump does? That's his specialty, everyone. That's his specialty, right? Or what? And this is a crazy video. This is what they're doing now. They're going after the left and make it seem as if the left are the radical ones and taking things out of context. They don't know how to realize that the American people don't support the policies of the right wingers.
Better than Israel, that he would vote for Hamas over Israel every time. Is Hassan Piker right about Hamas? I want to talk about it.
And so this is the craziness, right? That these guys want to make the left look like we're just all nuts. And it's not true, right? We're not crazy. We're not nuts. As much as they want to make us portray us
Van
that way.
Jones on Substack.
So I think a lot of people are making the mistake of just writing Hassan Piker off because some of the things he says are so surprising, so shocking, so outrageous. A lot of people think it's good enough to just call him names and hope he goes away. I think that's a big mistake.
So, I mean, he's out of control, right?
Hassan Piker has a massive audience. He's emerging as one of the major voices of his generation. And I think it's important that those of us who disagree with him take the time to address his claim. This claim is pretty simple. It's that the Israelis have been so brutal to the Palestinians, has treated them so badly, has prosecuted the war in Gaza with such violence that pretty much anything Hamas does pales in comparison. Anything that Hamas does is essentially justified. That's the basic claim. And I think that claim has a lot of appeal for people. It is true that the Palestinians have suffered grievously over these many decades. I've been to the
Right.
West Bank, I've seen it myself. I was in Gaza before Hamas took over. I have seen the conditions of the Palestinian people, and they have been treated badly. Many people felt that the Gaza war was prosecuted too aggressively. And that's why I think his critique, why his comments resonate with a lot of people. But I do see it very differently than Hassan Piker. And my position doesn't come out of a position of not knowing anything about oppression or not knowing anything about liberation struggles. In fact, the opposite. For a big chunk of my life, I was on the left side of Pluto. Why? Because of the pain of my people, because of understanding the brutality we suffered during our enslavement and during the vicious, violent colonial conquest of Africa. And frankly, the pain we still suffer in prisons, in jails, in housing projects. And that indignation at the mistreatment of my people, I understand why some people say anything you do to defend your people is completely justified when they have been mistreated. But I was lucky enough to meet people who were older than me in the struggle and who had been in the Black Panther Party.
And had more money than me and put me
People
on.
had been in the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. People had been in the African National Congress in South Africa who had to make the actual choice of whether to pick up the gun, and if they picked up the gun, how to use it. And those people humbled me, and they taught me things that I think are not being shared anymore with the next generation. One thing they taught me was that the choice between nonviolence and violence, there are legitimate times to be nonviolent, but also to pick up arms. Yes, we have a beautiful nonviolent tradition in the Black community, led by people like Dr. King and Ella Jo Baker and Fannie Lou Hamer and Bayard Rustin. These are people who, when they got to heaven, Gandhi himself probably bowed. These are giants of.
I understand what he's saying, but how is it Hassan Piker's fault that the left is the way it is? Why always blame Hassan Piker for everything? Right? That's my question.
Nonviolence. And that is an honorable tradition in my community. But there are people in my community who picked up the gun. The Black Panther Party did. Malcolm X said we had the right to do it. And many of our leaders in Africa engaged in armed struggle. But they had moral principles they refused to walk away from when they did it. The choice wasn't just between violence or nonviolence. It was between principled armed struggle and terrorism. If you look at Nelson Mandela with the ANC in South Africa, Amilcar Cabral in Guinea-Bissau, Samora Machel in Mozambique, Agostinho Neto in Angola, they faced the opportunity to kill a lot of white colonial family members, children, babies. There were a lot of white people who were in their countries who were easy targets. They chose not to kill those people. They chose instead to focus their guns only on soldiers, only on infrastructure. Why? They did not want to.
I don't understand. This guy's rambling like crazy. I don't understand his purpose pointing this.
Become what they were fighting. And so even in armed struggle, there are rules. Even in armed struggle, there are principles. And the principles of no women, no children, no rapes, no kidnapping. These are moral principles that any liberation struggle has to uphold. There is a way to judge an organization and decide, is it worthy of my support? You ask the question, what are the ends of the organization? What are their goals? And what are their means? How are they getting there? In my tradition, the ends have to be more freedom, more dignity, more democracy for more people. Those are the freedom fighting organizations in our community that we stand with and we uphold. Hamas is not that kind of organization. Hamas is not fighting for more freedom for Palestinians. It's actually fighting for less. They are an organization that wants a theocracy, not a democracy. They want Islamic fundamentalism Islamo-fascist principles to govern their people. Being Muslim, that's not a problem. They've gone way beyond that. They want Islamic fundamentalism, theocracy, domination, no rights for people. So they're not actually a freedom fighting organization. They're actually a freedom taking organization. I don't support that. Number two, their means. It's not that they're not nonviolent, it's that they are terrorists. Hassan Piker says that Hamas killed a lot of people on October 7th, but since then, Israel has killed many more Palestinians than Hamas has ever killed. Well, he's right, but not for lack of trying. Hamas has spent the past 10 years firing rockets at innocent Israeli men, women, children, babies, hospitals, schools, and nurseries. The only reason those rockets have not murdered tens of thousands of Israelis is because of the Iron Dome. The United States has funded a missile defense system to.
Wow. So he's just ignoring the whole. Like when you calculate, like this is like a straw man, right? This is a straw man because you cannot calculate how many people have passed away in Palestine in this short amount of time. It's saying that they shot missiles at let's keep listening to him.
Keep Hamas from being able to murder people. They are deliberately going after innocent civilians. And you could say, well, hold on a second. Israel has at times seemed to be targeting or harming innocent Palestinians. That is something that a lot of people have objected to. But in my tradition, you never let your opponent's morality dictate your own. You do not let your opponent's tactics dictate your own, because you don't want to become what you're fighting. You don't want to accidentally begin to mirror the very things you abhor in your opponent. Both parties have a legitimate historical claim to that land. In a classic colonial situation, that's not true. What I'm saying is that even if this were an anti-colonial struggle, and even if armed self-defense was justified, terrorism is not. Attacking innocent women, children, babies is not justified ever. That's my point. And so there is a moral standard that even Amilcar Cabral held himself to in fighting against the Portuguese, who were brutal, who were horrible, who were using napalm against Black women, who were cutting Black women open and pulling out the fetuses, doing horrific things to Africans. But Amilcar Cabral, when he engaged in struggle, refused to do any of that. And Amilcar Cabral's refusal to stoop to those sorts of tactics ultimately won the Portuguese people over to the side of the African freedom fighters in the 1970s. There is a way. I think most people can agree on three things: a secure homeland for both people, no hate, and protect the babies. I think
you have to see the balance of power. The left in this country does not have much power. And as much as we try to obtain power, we're constantly being blocked by people that are constantly hating on the left, trying to destroy the left, trying to paint us as evil. And you always gotta look at the funding sources of people like this, right? Why would he make a video like this when I feel like he's taking Hassan Piker out of context, right? Obviously, Hassan Piker is an American. He lives here within our borders, and he's not going around joining this group. He's just saying the amount of women and children that have been unalived have been way more on one side than the other side. He's not justifying um, the attack of women and children, right? He never said that. He never said that. He's saying that he doesn't tolerate the attack on women, on children, on innocent people that are not even military personnel, right? People that are not even military personnel are stuck in the middle of a conflict. And so now you're saying that it's the fault of those people that have nothing to do with the conflict in the first place. So I don't understand why Van Jones did this, right? This is what you call a slippery slope, arguing with extreme circumstances, right? And you argue with extremes in order to prove your more common point. This is a flawed argument. Very flawed.
Pretty straightforward. You want Jewish people and Palestinians to have a secure homeland. You don't want hatred against Israelis, Palestinians, Muslims, or Jews. And you don't want civilians being put in harm's way, either directly on purpose by Hamas or indirectly in a reckless way by Bibi. I think most people, if you just sat down and talked about it for more than 15 minutes, you'd arrive there. There is a way to use nonviolence and even sometimes armed struggle that is in pursuit of good ends using moral means. Hamas fails both tests.
So I'm glad you spoke about Martin Luther King, but you didn't speak about Malcolm X. That was just as influential. That's it. That things should be accomplished through all means necessary, right? And he would disagree with your philosophy. Fighting for one side and ignoring for the other, right? And let's see. Give me 1 second. So Van Jones received a grant from Jeff Bezos, $100 million. And he did do a APAC video on Instagram, Being Jewish podcast. So he doesn't have to disclose where he gets his money because he's a private citizen. He's not a politician, right? But it seems like he's really touting the pro-Israel stance, right? The pro-Israel stance. And so there's a lot of misquotes, a lot of framing the issue as if Hassan Piker is all for women and children to be brutalized, because he's not. So this is something that is not accurate and is very misleading, right? It's very misleading what they're saying, right? So today, Zora Mandani announced a big deal with Speaker Menon in New York City. Another leftist. How bad leftists are.
Mismanagement and chronic underbudgeting, alongside a structural imbalance between what New York City sends to the city. New York City faces a budget crisis of a historic magnitude. We inherited a deficit larger than any since the Great Recession. Years of mismanagement and chronic underbudgeting, alongside a structural imbalance between what New York City sends to the state and what we receive in return, have taken a toll. We cannot close this deficit with savings alone. We need new revenue, and we need a structural reset in our relationship with the state. That is the only way to meet our legal obligation to pass a balanced budget, and to do so without imposing a financial burden onto the backs of working people. I'm glad to partner with Speaker Menon as we call upon Albany and deliver a balanced budget. Together, we are extending the executive budget deadline from this coming Friday until May 12th, because a crisis of this scale cannot be solved without state action. I want to be clear. We are not simply asking others to act. New York City is doing our part. We are committed to governing with the fiscal responsibility this moment demands. Speaker Menon and I have already identified meaningful savings, and we will continue that work carefully, deliberately, and without cutting the services that New Yorkers rely on. But we cannot do it alone. That is why we are standing together this morning to underscore what is at stake and to call on Albany to deliver additional revenue.
So I had to throw that in there. So the budget is not doing well, and the governor has been ducking and dodging. Menon has been ducking and dodging. I guess they got so much pressure on her that she finally caved in. Right? So some more presidential stuff. Oh man, this is bad. You will white this guy that's standing on business, or you want to deal with this guy? The music is terrible. Look at this. Jimmy Kimmel was right. Jimmy Kimmel was right. His jokes were right on spot. Oh, man. Look at this. Hilarious. Melania's like, why I gotta stand next to this guy? I'm not holding his hand. And Trump is like, can't believe I gotta do this. Oh, man. Classic. This will be for the history books. Right? Yeah. Wow. Interesting, right? Interesting. It's true what Jimmy Kimmel said. Right? As much as you don't like Jimmy Kimmel, he's 100% right what he said. Right? And then this is some people are frustrated in the left, right? With the things that Trump does.
Is dead. Good. I like that he's dead. You don't get to say shit when you're the one who tweeted, an entire civilization will die tonight. We are not fucking doing this anymore. We are not doing this right now. We are not doing this tomorrow. We are not fucking doing this anymore. You guys don't get to play the I'm offended, how dare you routine when Donald J. Trump is the one who just came out the other day and said, Robert Mueller is dead. Good. I like that he's dead. You don't get to say shit when you're the one who tweeted, an entire civilization will die tonight. An entire civilization will die. You make nuclear threats on a regular basis. Forget about the things you say, which are bad enough because you do actual threats, direct threats of violence. You actually triple tapped an elementary school, you bitch. You bombed a hospital, multiple hospitals. You bombed multiple schools. You bombed power plants. You bombed a steel plant. You bombed all this different civilian infrastructure in Iran. You're arming and funding a genocide in Gaza. You're letting Israel do another genocide in South Lebanon. You are the war criminal of all war criminals. You are the terrorist of all terrorists, okay? You don't get to simultaneously go on like a fucking colossal murder spree and then whine about mean language, mean jokes coming from the other side.
So he's not having it. He doesn't care about the jokes or the president not liking the jokes. Because he definitely does not like the jokes. Just like Melania doesn't like him. She can't hide it, right? She's just acting. She's a good actress, right? So this is James Comey. Today he was indicted again by President Trump.
Go. But it's really important. Well, they're back. This time about a picture of seashells on a North Carolina beach a year ago. And this won't be the end of it. But nothing has changed with me. I'm still innocent. I'm still not afraid. And I still believe in the independent federal judiciary. So let's go. But it's really important that all of us remember this is not who we are as a country. This is not how the Department of Justice is supposed to be. And the good news is we get closer every day to restoring those values.
So it gets exposed every
Well, they're
time
back.
they do the stuff like this.
This time about a picture of seashells on a North Carolina beach a year ago. And this won't be the end of it. But nothing has changed with me. I'm still innocent. I'm still not afraid. And I still believe in the independent federal judiciary. So let's go. But it's really important that all of us remember this is not who we are.
Wow. He said, let's go. He doesn't care what Trump is doing. He believes in the First Amendment and the right to speak up. Right? Right, people.
Are as a country, this is not how the Department of Justice is supposed to be.
That's not how it works.
And the good news is we get closer every day to restoring those values.
Yeah.
Keep the faith.
And then
well, they're back. This time about a picture of seashells.
He told Trump, let's go. All right. There needs to be more comedians. All right. New Jimmy Kimmel defended his Melania expecting widow joke. So he defends his joke in public right after. Uh, uh, this is crazy, right? Um, crazy. Jimmy Kimmel under attack. They want to cancel him. Colbert was gone. Um, so now Jimmy Kimmel clapped back again, and he's saying he's not backing down. And First Lady Melania Trump. Kimmel's hateful and violent rhetoric is intended to divide our country. His monologue about my family isn't comedy. His words are corrosive and deepens the political sickness within America. Since when did Melania talk about politics? Didn't they say she doesn't want to get involved in politics? And so this is Melania Trump's. So this is Melania Trump's post. For the sickness was in America, people like him shouldn't have the opportunity to enter our homes each evening to spread hate. A coward Kimmel hides behind ABC because he knows the network will keep running cover to protect them. Enough is enough. It's time for ABC to take a stand. How many times will ABC's leadership enable Kimmel's atrocious behavior as at the expense of our community? Right? So our community should be protected from outside forces. That's the most important thing. Right? And I hope it's not tongue in cheek. I hope it's not like promises that people make and then they don't keep it. So what should I say to Melania Trump? A joke is a joke. That's what he gets paid for. That's what he gets paid for. A joke is a joke. That's what he gets paid for. That's it. Take it or leave it. A joke is a joke, and he gets paid to do jokes, and you're going after him. Right? Mehdi Hassan had an opinion. Let's see. So do I stand by it. I have never been a free speech absolutist, and I don't defend or promote racist speech. Jimmy Kimmel told a joke. He don't demonize religion or people. But nice try, thought. Better luck. Dope. Right? So who you think is right or who you think is wrong? Is it Melania Trump or is it Jimmy Kimmel? Whose side are you on? Put it in the comments. Whose side are you on? Jimmy Kimmel or Melania Trump? Melania is being arrogant and selfish. Jimmy Kimmel just doing the best he can, I think, and telling jokes while he's at it. Because jokes are not easy to get them right and to get people's attention. So just ignore the jokes and move on with your day. Right? That's what I suggest. But it's up to you. Thank you for the being with me tonight. Sorry I haven't been speaking that well. I was sick all week. But I'll be back on tomorrow. Thank you for joining me, everyone. I appreciate everything you do for me. Thank you. Subscribe to the channel and hit all the follow buttons on all the platforms. Thank you so much. Have a good night. Take care, everyone. Nice speaking to you. Take care, my fans.